All right, what is going on? So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the no BS guide to high ticket appointment setting. All right, so I've got a bunch of resources and materials prepared for you. So let's dive in. This is going to be in depth. Wherever you're tuning in from, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you find this valuable. As your boy Hormozy says, I got nothing to sell you. I'm just going to talk you through the entire end-to-end process for high ticket appointment setting. All right. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to dive on in here. All right. So here we go. The no BS guide to high ticket appointment setting. So first of all, what is it? What is high ticket appointment setting? So high ticket appointment setting is the process of setting qualified sales appointments with prospects for a high ticket service or product. That's simple. So this is what's happening from the point of getting a lead to the point of getting an appointment booked. Okay? So that's high ticket appointment setting. So if you have a business like an agency where you need a phone call to talk to potential clients and sell them on your service, appointment setting is relevant. If you are a coach and you have a coaching program where you need to qualify people and get them on a phone call prior to selling your service or product, high ticket appointment setting is relevant for you. And maybe even if you're selling a software and you need to do a demo or some sort of appointment prior to the sale, high ticket appointment setting is relevant for you. So why does this matter? So appointment setting matters because if you don't have appointments, you don't have sales calls, you don't have sales. And if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. And if you don't have a business, then you can't do Zoom calls in your underwear, unfortunately. So that is it, okay? And so my first agency imploded within weeks because I did not know this, all right? And so over here on the Predictable Growth page, so this is a company that I founded. This is basically our growth advisory firm where we help companies multiply profits while working less. And here's my origin story. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but at a high level, this is my story and this is what happened because I didn't understand how important high ticket appointment setting was. So I quit my job. All right. That was in 2016. And I slaved away for the next 12 months, working nonstop, 84-hour weeks, Gary V, hustle, grind set, baby. And, you know, it was brutal. Finally, got some traction, started, you know, I closed 22K in a day. This is an old YouTube video that you can see. And after about 13 months, my agency broke 6 figures. And so in early 2018, after I got my first 100 clients and projects, everything blew up. So what happened was I bootstrapped from a freelancer to a design agency with over 100 clients, primarily from referrals. And then overnight, within 1 week, our 2 biggest clients canceled. That was about 60% of our revenue. So I had to lay off my whole team. And my mental health was destroyed for months. And I was so depressed that I didn't want to wake up most days. Okay. And so that's why appointment setting is so important. Because if you don't have appointments and you don't have sales and you don't have a pipeline, then you are at risk of losing your business. That's simple. Okay. If you don't have a predictable system for doing this, you're at risk of driving this plane into a cliff and your whole team and agency imploding, like it happened to me. And so really for the last few years, I've reinvested almost every single dollar I've ever made in the business back into learning and learning from the best in the business, like Sam Ovens, Eli Wild, who is one of the greatest sales coaches in the world here. He was a right-hand man to Tony Robbins. And so ultimately that led me to create Predictable Growth years later after I learned all this stuff. Okay. So again, you can learn more on the website, but that's my backstory. Okay. So that's why it matters. All right. And so before we get in any deeper, I want to also share some of the most common mistakes to avoid. All right. And I have a full video on this here, which you can review. I'll share this mind map later. Just ask me, drop a comment, whatever. And so here are the most common mistakes. And the most important mistake, the most prevalent mistake is having a shitty offer. Pardon my French, but let's just call it like it is, okay? So having a shitty offer is the number one mistake when it comes to appointment setting. Because if you don't have a good offer, you're not going to book as many appointments. But even if you do book the appointments, you're not going to be booking appointments with the right people. And it all comes back to an offer. And so that's why this is highlighted as a priority. So I just want to make sure my audio is all good here. All right, I think we're recording, we're Gucci. All right, so number one is not having a good offer. Secondly, not having a niche. Okay, so if you don't have a clear target market for your offer, that's also going to cause problems when it comes to setting appointments. Another big mistake is not having qualifiers. So another huge mistake that a lot of people talk about, and another huge pain point for a lot of people, is I'm getting on a lot of phone calls, but nobody has the money. Nobody's qualified. And so that goes back to this problem, which again is also tied to the offer. Another huge problem is no lead flow, right? So I don't have enough leads. Like, I'm just relying on referrals. That is probably after the shitty offer, relying on referrals is the second biggest problem when it comes to growing your company that we see. This is the number one problem that we solve for our clients through Predictable Growth and partners through Predictable Growth. So if you're just relying on referrals, that means you do not have a predictable system for bringing in new business. And if you don't have a predictable system for bringing in new business, this is you. It's just a matter of time before your business crashes and burns, right? Like, some people can get by on referrals, and you can grow a multi-million-dollar business purely on referrals. However, it's unpredictable, it's inconsistent, and it's stressful, right? So that's why it's so important to have a predictable system for growth. All right. Another big problem is for those people that do have some lead flow, they're slow to get back to their leads, right? So if you're a founder running a company and an agency, you're wearing all the hats. You're doing a million different things on any given day, right? You're doing marketing, you're doing sales, you're doing some fulfillment, or you're doing all fulfillment and you're doing a little bit of marketing, a little bit of sales. And that's why you're not getting back to leads in time. And if you don't get back to leads in time, you wait 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week even. We've seen people, not get back to leads for weeks. It's crazy. And so that's a huge, huge problem and a huge, huge mistake. And then the final mistake is having a shitty sales process, right? So if you are booking appointments, you are talking to leads, but you're not converting any of those leads, that means you have a shitty sales process, among other things. You probably also have a shitty offer. All right, so here's a video on this. It's on my YouTube channel. My buddy Kevin and I, who was my head of sales at the time, we go deep. It's a 25-minute video. We go deep on all the common mistakes that companies typically make, that we've seen them make when it comes to growing their companies. All right. So head on over to the YouTube channel and you can check that out. The video is Deadliest Mistakes to Avoid when it comes to B2B sales, something like that. I'll include a link. All right, so those are the most common mistakes. All right, so now we've gone through what is appointment setting, why it matters, and the common mistakes to avoid. So now I want to share a little bit about what it looks like when appointment setting is going well. All right, so one of the companies that I'm a partner in, I'm just going to head into our Slack and look at yesterday. So these were the appointments that we booked yesterday. So from 6:10 a.m., we booked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 appointments. All right, so that's pretty good. 20 appointments in a day. So that's what it looks like when this is going well. When this system is going well, that's what it looks like. 20 appointments in a day. Sometimes more, sometimes less. All right, another example, and to give you some context, and we'll dive into how this works, the process, the different types of appointments being set. So what I just showed you, those are all primarily inbound appointments that are being booked through paid advertising. Okay. Here's a case study that you can find on the Predictable Growth website of how we booked out a $10 million sales pipeline in 26 days, which turned into about $3 million of revenue for our partner. Okay. And so this, alternatively, this was not booked through paid ads. This was booked solely through email outreach. Okay. So 26 days, we generated about 12 qualified leads worth over $10 million in pipeline. All right. So that's an example of appointment setting working well with an outbound approach. And here's another success story, another case study that you can find on the website. So if you go to predictablegrowth.io/case studies, you can navigate and learn more. But this was a previous growth partner and client called Dragon Fruit Media. And so on only 700 prospects, so we created a list of 700 prospects. They closed 8 new deals worth $75,000 in new business. From a 100% cold list, those are pretty great numbers, right? So this is what can happen. And this was also for a brand new offer. Okay, so this is what can happen when appointment setting is dialed in. So now I want to show you what an example funnel looks like, just so you have some more context. Okay, so this is a typical high ticket funnel, high ticket sales funnel. So we have an opt-in page, and we're driving traffic to an opt-in page. Then we have some emails. Then we have a VSL page. So this is a video with an apply now button. Then we have an application page. Then we have a booking page. And then we have a thank you page. And then we have a sales call and an appointment, right? So we're setting the appointment here. And then we have a close, and that's where you generate money. All right. So the appointment setting comes in from here up until this point. So this is the appointment setting phase. Okay. So that's at a high level, the funnel. We're going to dive deeper into this process and really get granular, but that's the high level, right? And then I also want to show you some example conversations of what does that actually look like? Okay. So this is actually, once it loads here, this is an example conversation of the SteelCon campaign. All right, so I'm actually going to take you behind the scenes. I'm going to show you exactly the outreach that we used and then how we booked the appointment. All right, so let's zoom in. And again, this is just to give you a real live living example of how we're booking some of these appointments. So Lydia says, "Hi, Greg, didn't know anyone at company. You guys seemed like a forward-thinking firm, so wanted to reach out. We help commercial developers and contractors in Canada in the USA, save up to 30% on structural steel with our proprietary lightweight product. I was thinking about dropping you a quick call early next week or end of this week if you had a few minutes to discuss. Does that work for you? All right. And Greg says, I'm always open to new ideas. Why don't you give me a call on my cell phone? All right. Awesome. Blah, 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 blah. Set the appointment. Boom. We set the appointment and boom, that's done. So this was an example of an outbound sales process. Okay. Or sorry, an outbound appointment setting process. All right. Here's another example. I know you're a little busy. Our agency has driven $1 billion in sales for clients. 8 figures of those results have been achieved through organic lead gen without ad spend. Although we've worked with some big companies, our prices are more affordable than an SDR, and we work with clients on a performance basis, blah, 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 blah. Happy to share our strategy and process if you're open to a call. And Bill says, great, I'd love to talk. Sounds good. We confirm the time, and boom, another appointment set. All right? That's outbound. Now, this is an inbound lead. So running some ads, somebody opted in, and then we sent out this text. We just asked them a few quick qualifying questions and set the appointment. All right. So those are some examples. All right. And now let's dive into the actual process. Okay. So I just kind of give you like a high level of the process and also just showing you our past results. So you know that, I'm somewhat qualified to talk about this. So that was 20 appointments a day from ads, $10 million sales pipeline in 26 days from cold outreach, 8 deals closed, $75,000 in revenue from cold outreach, walk you through the funnel, and I walk you through some example conversations. All right. So now let's get into how does this actually work? Okay. So what is the actual process and the workflow to booking these appointments for a high ticket offer? All right, so let's go through this. So I have this visual here, okay? So now I want to talk you through the 2 different types. There's really 2 primary types of appointment setting strategies, okay? And again, what that means is from the point of a lead saying either I'm interested, tell me more, or from the point of opting in to download a guide, downloading a video, downloading a case study. From that point up until the appointment is set, that's what we're talking about. Now there's 2 primary ways to do this. One is outbound, the other is inbound, okay? Now outbound, which is also referred to as business development or hunting, meaning that you're actually going out, talking to people that have never heard of you before and being like, hey, I'd like to tell you more about what we do, right? So this is things like cold calling, cold emailing, outbound on LinkedIn. You can equate it to digital door knocking, all right? And so for that has a different funnel, right? So that's the left side of the funnel here. So let me talk you through that. First is the outreach, right? So let's say you identify that you want to talk to chief marketing officers to sell your solution. So you're going to do outreach to chief marketing officers and try to get their interest using, the examples that I shared with you, something along those lines. So you send the outreach and then you generate replies. Okay. However, before you set the appointment, you need to qualify the lead, right? Because you don't want to just get replies and book a call because that could be a massive waste of time. So what you need to do is you need to have some sort of qualifying questions. And we'll dive deeper into this next, but this is the high level. So you get the replies and then you want to qualify them. You want to say something like, okay, do you have a sales team? Like one qualifier could be all of our ideal clients need to have a sales team. Otherwise, it's not going to work. A founder for our service is not going to work. Just a founder. right? And then if they do have a sales team, then it's like, all right, great. When are you free to learn more and talk? Okay. And so that's why over here, once there's a reply, you want to get them into your CRM. You want to get an appointment setter engaged to qualify and set the appointment. And you also want to send some text messages potentially as well and just support that process. So this is the left side of appointment setting. Now think of this as, when it comes to business development and outbound, it's an active process. It's a manual process. Okay. So after the outreach goes out and the replies come in, that's going to be a manual process up until the appointment is set. Okay. On the other hand, and think about this as push, like you're knocking doors, you're kind of hitting the phones, you're doing the outreach. It's a push approach. The other approach is a pull approach. Okay. And so what that is an inbound appointment setting process, which can be done through content. And think about it like farming, right? So what you want to do is post content, for example, right? So you're going to post on LinkedIn, you're going to post in a Facebook group, you're going to send an email, right? That person is then going to engage with that piece of content, and then they're going to be able to opt in to that piece of content, right? So if we go back to the previous step here and we look at the funnel, that could be, again, sending an email to your list with a link to your opt-in page. Then that person goes through, they're like, okay, this is the next page. They watch the video, they're like, wow, that sounds great. I want to apply. So they apply, they get approved, and then they set up a call and they see the thank you page. So all of that is being done passively. So as opposed to the outbound process, which is very push and manual, the inbound process is a lot more passive, right? That's why everybody just dreams of, a fully automated lead gen appointment setting system. That's everybody's dream. However, it takes a while to get to that point. And so that's why business development is a great way to test out your messaging, make sure it resonates before you do things like content marketing and advertising. Okay. And so again, on this side of the appointment setting, you're going to promote content. People are going to engage with that content. They're going to opt in, and then they're going to go through your funnel and book their own appointment. Okay. Now, sometimes, people will get to this stage, but not this stage. And so that's when somebody like an appointment setter needs to be on call and following back up with that lead and being like, hey, I saw you didn't finish your application. What's up? Here's a link. Here's our time availability, et cetera. Right. So that's the high level overview of appointment setting. All right. So that's it. That's the process. Again, we have outbound business development to book appointments on a manual, more active, a more active and manual method. And then we have content marketing and advertising is another great example where people are more passively going through the funnel and booking their own appointments. So now let's get into the granular process because it gets a lot more complicated and a lot more complex and comprehensive. All right, so there's two things I want to show you. First is a visual of our predictable growth machine, if you will, okay? So while that's loading, I'm going to pull up the other piece here. All right. So first, I want to provide a more granular view and more granular context about where appointment setting fits into the entire marketing and sales and retention engine. Okay. So first, I'm going to provide you with a visual around that. And then secondly, I'm going to talk you through the very detailed step-by-step system for appointment setting. All right. And so let's get into it. All right, here we go. So this is what we call our predictable growth machine. All right. Now bear with me while I need to plug in. All right. So I'm going to walk and talk with you here. All right. So this is the predictable growth machine. This encompasses everything from your target market to your story to your offer to your traffic channels to your marketing funnel, your sales funnel, your business development system, how you're actually enrolling clients, your sales process, all the way to fulfillment. Okay. So, this is, again, the holistic view, which is important because you want to understand how appointment setting fits into the bigger picture of your business as a machine. Okay. So, all right, there we go. One moment here. Let me just figure it out. All right. Whoops. All right. All right, cool. So this is a much more granular view of business development. Okay. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can see step by step what business development really entails, right? So it involves creating a targeted list. It involves creating email sequences or outreach sequences. It involves generating a reply. It involves qualifying the prospect. It involves booking them on a calendar. And it also involves a discovery call. So this is a call that happens before the sales call, because again, you don't have to have a discovery call, and the more dialed in your messaging and targeting is, the less required it is. However, it's typically a good practice, especially if you're just getting started. So once you have that discovery call, that's really replacing an application form. Okay. So instead of an application form doing qualification, it's a live human on a phone call typically doing that, right? Then once they're qualified, you schedule the consultation, and then you get them to purchase your product or service, all right? So that is the outbound or the business development side of things. On the marketing funnel side of things, again, what we're doing is we're having content. Then we're going to have an upgrade or an opt-in. Then we're going to have an email sequence, and we're also going to take them to a sales page. So we're getting from the marketing funnel into the sales funnel. So from the email sequence into the sales page, into the application form or the qualification survey, whatever you want to call it. If they don't qualify, that's when you would downsell them and you would build that into your funnel. That's, we're getting very granular here, but I told you this is no BS, all right? So if they qualify, then they can schedule a call, a consultation on the calendar. We also want to remind them via text and email. Then we're going to take them to a confirmation page. That's where we're going to show them things like case studies. We want to also hit them with retargeting so that by the time they get on that consultation call, they've been through a lot, right? They've seen case studies. They've been reminded, because again, we want to maximize that show rate, right? Because a lot of times, depending, you're going to see anywhere from a 50% no-show rate. Could be more, could be less, roughly. But if you're just getting started, you may want to expect those numbers, right? So again, this is the more passive way. This is basically where your funnel is really guiding people down up until the point that they're booking a consultation and a sales appointment. Whereas the business development route is a lot more manually involved. However, it's typically going to be more affordable and it's going to be a little bit more scalable at times. It just depends, right? So that is the very, very detailed walkthrough of the holistic view of the appointment setting process and where it fits into the entire growth machine. All right. So now I want to get a little bit more granular. Okay. So this is a workflow that we use with our appointment setting team. Okay. So, we're doing this for partners and clients. And so this is why it's really gotten really granular. So again, when it comes to generating leads, we're going to use business development, content marketing, or paid advertising. Okay. So the outbound is business development. The inbound is content and paid ads. So we have the inbound process here, and then we have the outbound process here. All right. So I'm going to get really, really granular, even more so. Right. So there's 3 stages of the inbound appointment setting process. We have the opt-in, then we have the conversation, and then we have the conversion. Okay. So let's say you have an opt-in page. Download your free guide or download your free training video, how to book more appointments. All right. So they opt in, and that starts the process. As soon as they opt in, we want to have our appointment setters try to get them on a phone. So we're going to call them, we're going to text them, we're going to email them. Okay. Hopefully we get a reply. That's what moves them from this stage to the next stage. If we don't get a reply, we're also going to send them an email sequence and, continue to follow up until we get that reply. Once they do reply, then we want to qualify them. All right. And now again, if it's done via inbound, this can happen with the funnel, right? So I think like a type form, an application, a survey. Okay. Then from there, once they submit that, if they're qualified, then we're going to go and we're going to set that call, and they're going to attend the call. If they don't attend, then we want to rebook them until they do attend the call. And then that triggers the end of this flow. All right. So that's the that's the inbound appointment setting. The outbound appointment setting goes like this. So when it comes to outbound appointment setting, the first stage is getting that reply, right? So as I showed you back here, we're getting that reply. So that's this stage, okay? So once we get that response, we want to then qualify them immediately. If they're not qualified, then we're just going to ask for a referral and move on. If they are qualified, then we want to classify their response, right? And so when it comes to qualifying, depending on your offer, you could potentially qualify them based on their email and their LinkedIn and doing a little bit of research. That's ideal, right? If you can do that, then you can really scale this outbound system up. If you require some manual qualification, like let's say a budget, for example, that's going to be a little bit harder to scale, but you're going to get better results in the back end. All right. So if we can qualify them without talking to them, that's ideal. And then we're going to qualify their response. Now, there's a few different types of responses and buckets of responses to think about. Okay. So there's going to be an information request. So somebody's going to say, hey, sounds interesting. Tell me more. Okay. Or like, I'm not interested. I need more information first. Right. So that's request information. Ideally, they're going to show interest right out of the gate, and then we're going to move them to the next stage. Okay. And then sometimes, for example, on LinkedIn, if you're doing outreach on LinkedIn, they're just going to say, oh, I'm happy to connect. So that's not really a meaningful response. So we're going to just resume our outreach campaign if that happens, right? So that's what we call small talk. Okay. So if they request information, we want to give them that information, right? So it's going to be something like, does this work for my niche? Or how much does it cost? Or what's the process? How long does it take, right? So for every type of information request, we want to have a templated message that our appointment setters can go in, customize, and ship, okay? And so once we provide that information, we want to then qualify them based on their interest, right? So it's something like, well, tell me how much it costs, okay? And you're going to say, well, depending on the offer or the package, or depending on where you're at in the business, it costs anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. Is that something you're interested in? Or, does that still work for you, for example, right? Because we want to qualify them based on the interest, right? So after they respond, so after that first response, we want to then have that conversation and get their interest and confirm that they're interested, all right? Then once we do that, once we confirm that they're interested, then we want to convert them to a call, okay? What that involves is setting a time, confirming details, and also providing some extra value, right? So it's like, all right, great. Does 2 p.m. on Wednesday work for you? Great. All right, great. So boom, I'm going to set that appointment. I'm going to confirm your details. And then I'm also going to provide you with like a case study or a training or a thank you page, something to just provide that value. And again, help warm up the prospect, right? Because again, if we're booking appointments outbound, then we need to do more warming up, right? We need to do more pre-sales, okay? And so the goal is to get them to attend that appointment. And then once they've attended, that's the end of this process. If they don't attend, we need to reschedule and go back through this process. All right. So I know this, if you're not deep into appointment setting, lead gen, biz dev, all that good stuff, this may have been a doozy for you, but this is the level of granularity that you will need to hire and systemize your appointment setting process. All right. And so that is the very granular, detailed walkthrough of appointment setting. All right. So that's the process. So now we've covered what is appointment setting, why it matters, common mistakes to avoid, examples of successful appointment setting, how it works, and the process. So now we're going to get into how do you actually find appointment setters? And then we're going to finish with how much it costs. And then we're going to give you some free downloads and goodies and templates and resources for those of you who want them. All right. So we're not going to get too deep into this. But when it comes to finding appointment setters, there's really 3 ways to do it. 1, do it yourself. Right? So this is going to take the most time, but it's going to be the most affordable. So let's say you are a bootstrapping founder and you're on a budget and you don't have a few $1,000s to spend on a consultant or an agency, then you're probably left with this option. Okay. So this is also, you're prone to mistakes if you haven't done this before, but that's why, I'm creating this resource and training and guide, right? Like, I hope that this has helped you because you can literally show your appointment setters, what I'm showing you now. All right. So that's doing it yourself. Second, you can hire a consultant. So that would be a firm that either will give you a system to go out and find appointment setters, as well as a system to implement appointment setting. Right. So there's a few different options out there. And then lastly, you can hire an agency to just do it for you. Okay. So those are really the different options. If you are tight on money, but you have more time, this is really your only option. If you have more money, but you don't have as much time, then you can either hire a consultant or hire an agency. Okay. And there's also a third option, which is find a growth partner, right? So a growth partner would be something like Predictable Growth, my firm. All right. And that's more of a partnership where, we're going to be, we're going to have skin in the game and we're both going to be working on the same team. There's still going to be some upfront fees, but we're going to be over the long term more incentivized to grow with you. Okay. So in my experience, I've done do it yourself. I've hired a consultant and I've also hired an agency. I've had mixed experiences with all three things. And so if you have any more specific questions, let me know. But those are really the options that you have. All right. Now, next is how much does appointment setting cost? Okay. Now, obviously, these options will vary in cost structure. Okay. But before you get started, what is really the most important thing to do is to calculate what you can afford to spend per appointment, because that's going to help you hiring. It's also going to help you with the compensation structure. Okay. So let me explain what I mean. All right. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out what's a target cost per appointment that makes sense. And the way that you do that is, this is a big metric in the SaaS world, but it's very relevant, whether you're running an agency or a course or a coaching firm, whatever. So basically what you need to figure out is, how do we make sure that our lifetime value is at least 3 times more than our cost to acquire the customer? Very simple. And to put it very simply, you want to make sure that you're making more money with every new customer that you acquire than you spend to acquire that customer. Pretty simple. And ideally, you're getting at least a 3x, at least maybe a 2x if it's like an early stage test. But these numbers will scale nicely. So let me just break down what that means. LTV is the amount that a customer spends with you, right? That can be over a lifetime, over many years, or you can do it over a year, or you can do it over 90 days. Okay. The cost per acquisition, CAC, that's how much it costs you to acquire that customer, which is basically all of the money that you're spending on marketing and sales divided by the number of customers that you've acquired during that period. Next is the close rate. So this is how many appointments and consultations convert into sales and new clients. Okay. And so you need these numbers to figure this out. All right. So you need these numbers to figure out how much can you afford to spend. So let's go through an example scenario now. All right. So let's say you're selling a $20,000 program or service, whatever it is. Then we want to divide by 3, which gets us to 6.6666 target cost per acquisition. All right. So this means that as long as it costs us this much to acquire a customer and we're making this much, and now keep in mind, this is not a lifetime value. This is really a 90-day, let's just call it a 90-day lifetime value, right? So within 3 months, you want to collect $20,000, okay? Or even, it could be upfront. So it could be like a 30-day LTV, right? Because let's say this is a lifetime value, but you're collecting this over 12 months. Well, that's not going to be as profitable, right? So that's why you really want to make sure it's like, how much money is a customer going to be paying you over 30, 90 days? Okay. So that's what I'm assuming here for this scenario. All right. So your target cost per acquisition is 6.6K. So you know that if you can acquire customers for less than 6.6K, and that they're going to spend $20,000, that this is scalable. It's a scalable model, and you can spend more money and you can dump more money into whatever it is that you're using to book those appointments. All right. So now that we have this target cost per acquisition, let's say we have a 20% close rate. So then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that number by this percentage to calculate our target cost per call. And that brings us to $1,000, $333. All right, so those are our targets, right? So if you're using this to or create projections, you also want to assume the no-show rate. And this is a very low, like this is a bad no-show rate, but just to be very conservative and project those numbers for when you do the projections and say, look, these are our projections, and in order to reach our targets, you want to account for a 50% no-show rate, right? So let's say you need 10 new customers. That means that you need to have 50 calls, assuming 100% show rate, but that means you're really going to need 100 calls. You're going to have to double that, right? So that's just for your information when you do actually run the numbers here. So yeah, that's an example scenario. All right, so now you know, all right, this is my target cost, which is pretty high. Generally, you can beat these numbers, especially with outbound. But now you have your targets, right? So next is the compensation structure. Like, how do you actually pay your appointment setters? Okay, so there's really one question that you need to ask yourself. One, are you supplying the leads, right? So what that means is, are you going to provide your appointment setters with leads, or are you going to ask them to go out and hunt for leads? Okay, so if you are supplying the leads, then you could potentially compensate your appointment setters 100% on performance. Okay, or you could do a hybrid of base plus performance. However, if you're not supplying the leads and you're going to require people to go out and hunt, then you need to pay either a base or a base plus performance. Okay, and I always recommend having performance because it's going to incentivize people a lot more. They're going to have skin in the game, and they're going to ideally go above and beyond to get those results. So when it comes to performance, you're probably wondering, like, what does that mean? So let me explain. So performance compensation is either a fixed fee per call. Okay, so let's say that you were doing business development. You could pay your appointment setters, let's say $50 per call or $100 per call, right? So you could pay them a base plus $50 per call as a bonus performance, right? Or you could do 1 to 5% of the closed deal. Pretty straightforward, right? So that's what I mean when I say performance compensation. Now, what should you expect to pay appointment setters? Well, the average salary for a sales development representative, which is really the appointment setting equivalent, like this role, like the SDR, it's very similar to an appointment setter. There's a few kind of subtle nuances and differences, but in the US, you're going to be looking at a base salary of $57,000 plus additional cash compensation for bonuses of $23,000, which puts you at an $81,000 on-track earnings total comp. Okay, so if you're looking to hire in the US, these are just important numbers to consider. Okay, so this is not a small investment, but there are alternative solutions, right? Like, you could hire appointment setters abroad, right? I've done that in the past, and that's worked really well. Or, if you are going to hire people in-house or hire people in the US, then just be ready to, compensate them fairly. Okay. So we went through a lot here. All right. We've been through what is appointment setting, why it matters, common mistakes to avoid, examples of successful appointment setting, case studies. How does it work? What's the process? How to find appointment setters, how much it costs. And now we got some free shit. All right. So if you want free guides, free templates, free training, and more to help you with this and help you not only book more appointments, but create better offers, generate more leads, how to do content marketing, how to do sales, how to close at a higher ticket, how to increase your prices, how to charge more, all that good stuff, go ahead and jump into the Predictable Growth Academy. All right. So this is a 100% free membership that we have put together, my team and I. And it's basically a membership portal of just tons of free resources. So you're going to be getting case studies, community access where you can ask questions, ebook access, tutorials, tools, and templates. All right. So yeah, you're going to get access to a Facebook group with 2,000 other B2B service providers. And yeah, you're just going to get a tons of free shit. All right. To help you book more appointments. So it's totally free, but only for a limited time. So jump on it. Don't wait. All right. And if you are looking for more hands-on support, we do have an accelerator program. This is a very, basically what you saw me walk you through here. Our accelerator is helping you build out a lot of this, right? So it's a very substantial build out, and it's also expensive because it requires a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. All right. So if you do want some more hands-on support, then go to predictablegrowth.io/accelerator, and you can learn more. You can apply. You can schedule a call. All right. If you are looking for more support, but you don't want to spend, I think our minimum ticket's $7,500, up to $30,000. If you're not ready to spend that type of dough, I totally get it. And maybe you're bootstrapping, maybe you're just getting started, you're just looking to get some traction. Then what you can do is you can go to our predictablegrowth.io/72-hour sales. And we have a $99 sales challenge, which is really just kind of like a taster of our full system, right? So you're going to get support, you're going to get resources, and you can really take action on a lot of stuff, all right? So you can learn more about that. I'll include the link on the mind map as well. So let me do that. Join the 72-hour sales challenge. All right, so let me add the link. Oh, I don't know what's happening, but let me just do it. There we go. Boom. Only $99, and that's great for solo founders, bootstrappers, freelancers, people that are just getting started and they don't already have a 6-7 figure business. All right, so that was a lot. We went through a lot. I hope it was super valuable for you. And yeah, that's it. So I hope that was useful. I'll see you in another video very soon. If you have any questions, just drop a comment. Let me know what you got. And that was your No BS guide to high ticket appointment setting. So I hope that was useful, and I'll catch you in another video very soon. Peace and love.